So, after the 27-24 dramatic win away in Ford Field, the Baltimore Ravens come into US Bank Stadium with a 27-19 victory. The emotional hangover is real, Vikings fans, and we're here to address it in today's video. Hello everyone, my name's Ollie and welcome back to another video on the 4th and SKOL YouTube channel. And yes, you heard me correctly, the Vikings have a big worrying trend of emotional hangover results under the Kevin O'Connell era. There are many examples of these up and down results since Kevin O'Connell took over in 2022. So let's rewind, let's take a look back at the earliest example I could find. It's the season opener on the 11th of September 2022 at home at US Bank Stadium. The vibes are good. We have an offensive coordinator at the helm finally after a period with Mike Zimmer, and Kevin O'Connell has won the Super Bowl with the Rams, and yeah, all is well. There's the excitement in the building about what this offensive coordinator could do with Kirk Cousins and the offense at the time. They played, particularly well. They got a 23-7 victory over their division rivals, the Green Bay Packers. But then the following week, the 20th of September 2022, in Philly, they lost pretty heavily, 24-7. Playing in Philly still cuts pretty deep after that 38-7 loss in the championship game. But yes, it was a very up and down exchange in the opening couple of games of the 2022 season. But it continues. I think we all remember the Vikings-Bills game. I think it's gone down in history as one of the best regular season games of all time. From that Justin Jefferson catch to the Eric Kendricks fumble recovery, just a memorable game. The Vikings came away from Buffalo with a 33-30 win, and then the following week on primetime in front of the nation, a 40-3 battering by the Dallas Cowboys. A little bit later on in the season now, on Christmas Eve, the Vikings win against the New York Giants, the winter whiteout game, I believe. And then the following week, against the Packers, they got battered 41-17. And finally, to end the 2022 season, they finished with a win in Chicago, a 29-13 victory for the Vikings. And then the following week, in the wildcard game, the Vikings lose 31-24 to the New York Giants, to the team that they beat several weeks before, where Kirk Cousins infamously threw short of the sticks. Now, 2023 was a bit of an anomaly season. It was an injury-riddled season. Obviously, Kirk Cousins went down. But after a horror start to the season, the Vikings bounced back and won 5 in a row. The 5th win in a row was against the New Orleans Saints, a 27-19 victory. Pastronaut was in full flow at this point, and with a 6-4 record, the Vikings had completely turned their season around. But then on the 20th of November 2023, the Vikings lost a close game to the Denver Broncos 21-20, and this started a dramatic spiral for the Vikings. Their record for the rest of the season was 1-6. And it brought some of the ugliest games in the Vikings history, in particular that 3-0 score to the Raiders and one very ugly game against the Chicago Bears. We all know what happened in the 2024 season. The Vikings picked their quarterback for the future, who went down with that knee injury. We managed to pick up Sam Darnold in the off-season, and the season took off from there. On the 6th of October, the Vikings took on the New York Jets in London, and they got the job done, 23-17. A 5-0 start to the season. They were absolutely flying high. And after the bye, they faced their arch rivals, the Detroit Lions, and they lost in dramatic fashion. A 31-29 loss at home, which subsequently followed a 20-30 loss to the Rams. And those two teams were our Achilles heel all season long. On the 29th of December, Sam Darnold probably had his best game in purple. A crucial victory against the Packers 27-25 to firmly put the Vikings in contention for that number 1 seed against Detroit. The hype was building, it was there. Can the Vikings go and get that number 1 seed through a dramatic season? And you know what happens, the Vikings get absolutely smacked 31-9. They roll into the wildcard game against the Rams in the playoffs and they get beat in more dramatic fashion. And unfortunately, the 2025 season has continued this trend, just with another quarterback at the helm. JJ McCarthy was back in his first game, a divisional season opener in Chicago. It wasn't looking pretty for 3/4 of football, but then the McCarthy show started in the fourth, a miraculous win, 27-24. Things were looking up. We've found our QB for the future. But then, just as it always has been, on the 15th of September this year, the Vikings lose 22-6 against the Falcons, and they just look lifeless. And to top it off, obviously McCarthy picked up that high ankle sprain. And that was that. Even Carson Wentz was susceptible to this trend. They beat the Bengals 48-10 at home. And then the week after, they lost a close one in Dublin, where Aaron Rodgers sort of carved up the Minnesota Vikings defense. And finally, and most recently, the Vikings beat the Detroit Lions away at Ford Field. No one predicted the Vikings to win. It was McCarthy's sort of return game from that high ankle sprain. 90% of that O-line was back under sort of full health, and things were looking good. The Vikings have turned it around. They've beaten their divisional rivals, something that they haven't done for a long, long time. And then the Ravens game happens, 27-19, just full of sloppiness, full of sort of unforced errors. When the game was in the balance for the Vikings at that point, there's a deep, deep concern. These extreme highs, these big, big wins, playoff wins, divisional rival wins, prime time wins, bring an emotional hangover to this team. And then they just aren't able to perform the following week and they completely crumble under the lights. This is not a new pattern. This is a trend that has been going on for some time. And the coaches need to be held accountable. Kevin O'Connell, Brian Flores, Wes Phillips, etc. need to do a better job at preparing these guys for these games, especially after the highest of highs. They need to keep all players at all phases at a consistent level, not get too high and not get too low. The worrying trend here is that it's clearly a mental issue, which is seeping in as a cultural issue now. The Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell are quickly being known as the yo-yo team. One good season, one bad season, one good season. If I had one good game, one bad game, one good game, one bad game, a string of good games, a string of bad games. This theme is deeply, deeply concerning. Kevin O'Connell, he's been there, done that, won the Super Bowl with the Rams. Brian Flores, one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, and also been a head coach in his time too. These are no mugs. Linking to this consistency issue as well, the Vikings are statistically worse when playing under the bright lights, when playing in prime time, than playing in that noon slate. You can argue that playing in that noon slate, you play sort of more lower ranked opposition, and in the prime time games, you're playing divisional rivals, playoff games, and the games that really matter against the top rated opposition. But in these prime time games, that's when we're seeing the result of this emotional hangover. That's when we're seeing the 40-3 batterings by the Dallas Cowboys. That's when we're seeing the capitulation of the O-line and Sam Darnold against the Los Angeles Rams in prime time in the playoffs. And again, linking to this cultural issue that the Vikings have created for themselves. The Minnesota Vikings also haven't been helped with massive inconsistencies at the most important position in football, the quarterback. Under Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings have had Kirk Cousins, they've had Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, the passionate Jaron Hall, and JJ McCarthy. Through repetition, through consistency, rapport is built with your O-line, rapport is built with your wide receivers, and rapport is built with the coaches as well. With consistency, we'll bring more consistent results and hopefully less extreme highs and extreme lows. There's also been major inconsistencies with the Vikings O-line too. Far too easily have defences broke through that line of defence to the quarterback, and far too easily have we been allowed to negate the run game and completely sort of swap our focus to the pass game. We become too one-dimensional. The Vikings offense stutters, more susceptible to an interception too. It all links and connects to build this bigger picture. The Minnesota Vikings under Kevin O'Connell have an emotional hangover issue which needs to be addressed ASAP. So yes guys, let us know your thoughts down below. Are you concerned by this emotional hangover trend? The Vikings have got some do or die matchups coming up. We've got the Chicago Bears at home, followed by an away trip to the Green Bay Packers. The season's on the line, so which Minnesota Vikings team is going to show up? But thanks very much for watching and listening. I really do appreciate it, and SKOL Vikes.